how do we view life? If we view our life as our training ground, the purpose of which is to perfect our skills in being truly human, then the purpose of transitions is transformation. We may not totally understand or make sense when it is happening, because as we have seen, transitions can be painful. Transitions are difficult. Loss of identity, our normal ways of control, we lose that. So it doesn't make sense. But if we are determined to profit from our transitions, then transitions will lead to transformation. Well, my experience with Jung is fabulous, awesome, inspiring, and very transformative. My interest in Jung actually started when I was still with the Ateneo Department of Psychology. Rose Yenko was a figure. Although she was not a full-time faculty member of the department, she would really come in with a bash. And of course, that infectious laughter na talagang Rose Yenko brand. All right. So I think the one that really created much impact on me was the Jung Festival. Now, please take note that my major in psychology is social, not clinical, not counseling. And yet all my cognates, especially both MA and PhD program, I took them in the clinical division. I took hypnotherapy, abnormal psych, because Hani Kalandang said, itong si Milagros, closet queen clinical. Deep inside, ang gusto ko raw clinical. Nag-social psych ako, social. And I think I must admit it's true. All right, I will not tell you the reason why. So I made it a point that my involvement in social psychology or the psychology of groups is balanced by my interest in the depth of the human psyche. So dun pa lang, interesado na ako kay Carl Jung. Okay? Also, do you know that actually Father Bulatao, last years of being a psychologist, he moved from experimental psych to transpersonal psychology. And all of these were self-taught, self-learned. So malaki din ang influence ni Father Bulatao. Lalo pa, malaki ang influence ni Father Bulatao kay Rosyenko. Sabi niya, palangga. Diba? Karamihan ng mga kaibigan ko like Sandy Abrada, Juan Canapi, lahat ng mga yan disciples of Father Bulatao. Ako, admirer from a distance. So that's the long history. But the one that I think really propelled me into the center of the Carl Jung Circle Center was when my youngest sister became a victim of injustice in the workplace. And I was so angry. And I did not know where that anger will lead me. In fact, I attended the Dream Workshop. I attended the Dream Workshop at the Ateneo Rockwell, no? And I remember, kumpleto yung yung Friends of Jung, Dido, Georgie, Rose, and even Chato was there. And I think it was second day, I don't know, in a small group discussion, probably it was Georgie who was facilitating or Chato. And I said what I said now. I'm so angry. I will quote, I'm so angry I can kill them, but I will not. Okay. And then when Rose came, she talked to me one-on-one. And then that's it. I started, no? I want to understand the depth of my anger. I want to transform my anger into something positive. And I think the rest is history, di ba? Well, you have the summit, the kabud, And of course, Ruby is here, our playwright, the halo-halo, etc. And that's it. And everything has been an adventure, a roller coaster of fun, of deep learning and fun. And I must say that an introvert. I don't have many associates. I am selective with my friends, even the groups that I engage. And I only go to a group when I feel so safe. And I must admit that the Carl Jung Circle Center is one of the if not the safest groups that I can be me. I can be Milagros, Milagrosa, Malalim, Alim. So that is my experience with Jung. I am a seeker. Lagi akong nagtatanong. Lagi akong nagsasaliksik ng aking buhay. Okay. It began in childhood. I come from a big family of 10. Chinoy. So may Chinese at saka may Filipino descent. We are 10 in the family with limited resources. And again, I have to be honest, I felt different from my siblings. I love all of them. In fact, that's why until now, I care for them, my nephews and nieces. But I felt so different because, I was introvert, I was quiet. Even now, when we have reunion, they can be laughing boisterously. I can only take so much of it. In fact, remember, sa MBTI, INFJ is one of the rarest in the population. All right. So because of that, I have to mention Uncle Emil here, Daddy. We were renting a 2-bedroom apartment in Sampaloc, kaya nga yung baha sa buhay ko, San Diego Street. And my Uncle Emil, Daddy, an only child, a loved child, got a scholarship from UP, Fine Arts. Wala silang means, so they rented, yung mag-ina rented the apartment, one of the rooms in our apartment. And that bedroom of Daddy became my solace. I would hide under the bed. And since Daddy was an illustrator of comics, that's why I got to know Kenkoy when I was young. I got to know Tweety when I was young. And then most of all, I got to know Russian fairy tales and this illustrated Bible of Daddy. So I love fairy tales. Bata pa lang. And then, that's why the book that was given to me, Favorite Tales of Long Ago. I did realize, fast forward, that my love for fairy tales actually connect to my love for alamat, my love for mythology, and then stories in the Bible, etc. And Jung offered the same thing. The explanation given by Jung are beyond the logical, beyond those that are subject to, that I am a mathematics minor. So I also taught mathematics and statistics. My being a biologist allows me to be very logical, no? But they are not enough. And that's why one of my favorite books is The Little Prince. Remember that famous quotation, what is essential is invisible to the eye. So siguro in short, how has Jung, in fact, it's a progressive tense. How is Jung helping me right now? I will go back to the highest need of humanity, according to Maslow, self-actualization, self-actualizing. Ang lalim kasi ng self Ang lalim talaga ng pagkatao. I don't know if I mentioned this in one conversations, but I used to teach general psychology at the Ateneo Department of Psych. Our textbook was Atkinson, but I love reading other books. And one book that I read as a reference, I'm sorry, I forgot the author, but the author said, man really is a traveler. Man has journeyed outside planet Earth and discovered the universe. And we know that very now. In fact, Branson, I think with Tesla founder, they did that already. So man has gone outside planet Earth. And man has gone to the deepest of the Earth's core. That's why we know the content of the Earth's core, magma, lava, whatever that is, that comes out during a volcanic eruption. But the author said the most important journey that an authentic man or woman can take in one's lifetime is the journey to the depth of the soul. And so in my personal life right now, especially now, because if I make reference to my Navigator song, Agos ng Buhay, I'm already in my fourth phase. Sumas sa puso kay may kapal. So from my creator, back to my creator. And I love Jung because Jung appreciates the different narratives about our faith, about our spirituality. Remember, I was brought up Catholic, talagang legionary, nagnunovena, etc. My siblings, especially my sisters, are still into that mold, and I love them for that. I love them for that. But my mind is always asking, is that the only truth? And you know what I love about you? This expression, my truth at the moment. It recognizes that the truth is so wide and so big and really invites exploration. I'll go back to my childhood again. You know, I believe geography is biography and biography is geography. Perhaps I would have been a different person if I did not live in Sampaloc, Manila, where we were perennially visited by the flood. Pero nung unang panahon na yun, yung flood ang daling umagos. Okay? Yun lang, yung flood, yung tubig sa buhay ko, mahalagang aspeto yun. Because remember that water is a creative force. It can also be a destructive force. Okay? And that's why I've read the original script, the dialogue and the monologue given to me by Ruby. And I know nag-adlib ako doon in the actual play. Naglagay na ako ng mga adlib ko na, yung sa Sampaloc, sa Santa Mesa, pati ba naman dito sa Loyola Heights, meron pang baha. Okay, and you know why? Because my dissertation is about 10 women leaders. 2 leaders from each of the 5 sectors I've served. Diba? I've been working with academe, business, government, religious, and social dev. Okay? And one of them from the academe, and I must say, is the best leader. You know, I want to mention her name, Bernie Nepomuceno, because she was able to combine really the best of corporate, the depth of Jung, and her intuition. Okay. So in my conversation with her, because my method was narrative analysis, because the title is Personal Transformation of Women Leaders in Their Transforming Organization, I would also share my story. And out of the blue, she said, Mila, sinusundan ka ng baha sa buhay mo. Puro ka baha. I wonder what Carl Jung has to say about you. And that was around 1997. And take note, I told you earlier that I love Jung, pero medyo na isang tabi ko. So when Bernie said that, I wonder what Carl Jung has to say about you. Ayun. And so when we went into that kabod thing, and I talked about the floods again, Jay Batoon, I consider my spirit guide, said, Agos ng buhay. So I think that is how I have been living my life as a navigator. Sumasabay ako sa agos ng buhay. Literally, siguro emotionally and socially. I have difficulty being a TCK, a third culture kid. Pag nandun kami sa aming Chinese background, ramdam ko yun, parang hindi kami tanggap. Pagdating naman dito, so I had to go through that, and maybe that's the reason why one of the characteristics of the navigator in me is that I am quiet, I am sensitive. Pinakikiramdaman ko yung mga tao. Tama ba itong ginagawa ko? Natuto akong makibagay. Siyempre, kung 10 kayong magkakapatid with limited resources, kailangan makibagay ka. Hindi lang yon. Because of the extended concept, and my mama was also the second from the eldest, there would be times that there were 17 people in our 2-bedroom apartment. At pakikitunguhan mo, pakikisamahan mo lahat. So the navigator in me is really that of being an observer, a sensitive soul, kayang tumimpla, always guided by my inner compass. I usually introduce myself first and foremost as an educator. Okay? And I go back to the essence of education, which is educere, educing, to draw out the best. And it's important to note that many of the founders of organization development as a field in psychology of plan change and management of change are educators, top-notch educators, both from the West and in the East. So, but right now, I introduce myself for purposes of focus as an organization development and well-being consultant. So what do I do? I accompany persons, teams, and organizations in their journey of change and transformation. In my roles as coach and navigator, I help these people go through the process of transformation towards wholeness and well-being. And wholeness, for me, is not the absence of brokenness. It is what we choose to do at the center of our lives to deal with our brokenness. Remember that popular Japanese art when you have a broken vase and you repair it by allowing liquid gold to repair the cracks. And the more cracks, the more beautiful because there are so many gold veins that repair the cracks. And metaphorically, I think that is what I do as an ODW consultant. Why is it fulfilling? Because I'll connect it to my psychology. I see psychology as the profession of helping people get many chances in lives. Not only a second chance, a third chance, but many chances in life. If they falter, if they were not able to go through their journey, the role of a psychologist is to help them make turning points and then take a second chance. What is the essence of my OD work? No, I must go back again to my childhood and mission. I love poetry, so every now and then I start my answer with poetry. Gerard Manley Hopkins, a Jesuit, is an Irish poet. And one of his favorite lines goes like this: "What I do is me. For this I came." It's another way of describing a mission statement. Ano ba ang mission ko? Bakit ako ipinanganak sa mundong ito? Ano nga kaya ang aking sacred contract bago ako isinilang ni Mama noong November 27, 1955? So if what I do is me, for this I came, what I'm doing now as an ODW consultant is my mission. Okay. And I think the most descriptive way of putting that is to state my mission statement, which actually was in a way guided by Morrison Montes. She's a psychic who can read past lives. I visited her twice, and in one of those visits, she used automatic writing. I just wrote my birthday, my full name, etc. And I think she's listening to some guides, and she was able to see my mission statement both in text and in vision. So in text, it allowed me to write my mission statement much later. Right now, my mission statement are in 12 words. I will tell you why 12 words. Okay, let's count. I breathe new life to persons and organizations for healing and transformation. I hope it's 12. All right, okay. And the choice of the word breathe new life was really manifested in a vision that Morrison saw. She saw me, a mother, bending down on a child, gasping for breath. And I was resuscitating the child for energy, for new life, and for transformation. And then lo and behold, after that revelation from Marison Montes, my good friend, Father Carol San Juan, Jesuit, who is now the president of Ateneo de Zamboanga, he was not a Jesuit then. He came from Vietnam, and he dropped by the house and he gave me a marble carving, a marble statue of that same vision, a mother resuscitating her child. And since I'm listening to my body, I believe in Louis Hay, no? Okay, body, heal your body by listening to your body. I noted that when I have to do a major project related to OD, I would have asthma-like attacks. Kinakapos ako ng hininga. Pero siguro, pinapaalala sa akin, Milagros o himalalim. Huminga ka ng malalim. Malaking pagbabago yung gagawin mo. So, that is the essence of my OD work. I breathe new life to persons and organizations that need healing and transformation. Fulfilling, number one, kasi kung alam mo yun ang mission mo, tanggap mo na yun ang mission mo. So, hindi ba kung ginagawa mo araw-araw, pag sinundo ka na ni God, pass your papers, you can always say, mission accomplished. Because it's what you do every day. Fulfilling also because, remember, kaya ako nag-bio major. Maliit pa ako, ang hilig-hilig ko talaga sa buhay. Okay, I love life, I love movements, I love the manifestation of movements. So for example, kahit hindi ako lumaki sa probinsya katulad ni Jay, at si Ruby alam ko nasa Zambales o Bataan. Ang pinakagusto kong laro nun ay hinahabol ko yung halaman ito. Nakikipag-unahan ako sa Mimosa pudica. O ano ang Mimosa pudica? Yan ang scientific name ng makahiya. Nauunahan ko yan. Sasabihin ko, kala matouch ko ito nang hindi siya sasara. Lagi ako nauunahan kasi ano yun automatic response, the loss of turgor pressure. And I love watching tutubi, especially when I went to Cebu, the garden, the butterfly garden of our almost national artist Humalon. I actually saw the stages of the metamorphosis of a butterfly, especially a young butterfly struggling out of the cocoon and trying to let its wings come out. So life and movement and change, I find that so fascinating. So I took up biology. And ang ganda ng kalikasan, nilikha ng Panginoon. So sabi ko, ang ganda ng kalikasan, yung lumikha nito, awesome. So I also took theology. So you have the created world and the creator. But what led me to psychology, depth psychology, and eventually OD is because without being so dominant, okay, because right now the most important is respect for diversity and interbeing of species. The human being is still the pinnacle of creation. Because of our faculties, we have free will. So I said, might as well study the human being. So I went into psychology. A man or woman fully alive is God's greatest glory. And so that's the reason why I find OD work so fulfilling. When I accompany organizations, hindi ko naman tinitingnan yung sistema masyado. Kailangan yon, the system. Of course, I will have to look at the physical facilities. Hinahanap ko palagi ang tao. Because an organization is an organization because of people. People are still the most important assets of an organization. Many organizations now are losing physical assets, etc. But as long as they have good people working with them, working for them, they have something to start with. So that's it. I find it so fulfilling because in the end, you are helping people through organizations of different sizes become the best of who they are. If you're familiar with Enneagram, another personality profiling instrument, a long time ago, especially sila Juan Canapi would say, number 2 daw ako sa Enneagram. And number 2 is the helper. Well, but not very recently, but more than 5 years ago when I took the Enneagram on my own, lumabas number 7 ako. Ang number 7 is fun-loving, Dionysius. Okay, so have I seen myself as helping? Again, it's childhood. How can you not help? You come from a big family of 10. You're second from the eldest. And you can see, I saw my mama. I saw my mama really needing help. So I cannot help but help. All right. And then yung parent tape, ikaw ang pinakamatalino, ikaw ang umunawa, ikaw ang pinakamagaling, ikaw ang magbigay. And at that time, when they were coming out as should, I have to confess, may resentment. But of course, how can I not help? I could see my siblings, no? They really need that. I could not study my homework until I have tutored my siblings, even my eldest sister, in mathematics. I could only do my housework after I have done my responsibility as a teacher. So kung tutuusin, naging training ground ko ang family ko for teaching, diba? For helping, for making people move on, etc., etc. Until finally, I already owned it. But I am in this world to help. In fact, among siblings, ako yung pinakamahilig mag-aral. Pag nagayon, si Ate Mila, nag-aaral na naman. That's why, take note, we are 10 in the family. Only 5 of us were able to enter college. And only 2 of us were able to enter graduate school. Gigi has an unfinished MA or MS in biochemistry. I'm the only one who was able to finish a Ph.D. with much difficulty. But you know why I'm studying? Because I want to help. My taking up all those courses, etc., was for me to push back the frontiers of ignorance. Because ignorance prevents people from helping themselves, from fully developing and really reaching their highest future possibility. I never liked education. It was not my childhood dream to become a teacher. Honestly, there were only 2 professions that attracted me as a child. Being a doctor of medicine and a priest. Medicine and priesthood. In fact, in an article that I was writing but not yet published, The Personhood of the OD Practitioner, I wrote that my childhood dreams were 2 professions that I find very noble. And maybe that's the reason why I took this work with the UST Hospital Department of Surgery. We want to make a difference with doctors because it's an unfulfilled dream. How could I pursue medicine? We were poor. I was second from the eldest. Even if I got scholarship, kawawa naman yung mga susunod sa akin. And then priesthood. At that time, there were no women priests. Diba? Okay, now what was so impressionable? Why did I like these 2 professions? Kasi kapapanood ko ng pelikulang Pilipino. You remember those old Filipino movies? And then death scene, sa bed scene. May 2 lalaking nakatayo, parehong nakaputi, parehong may nakasabit sa kanilang liig. Yung isa, stethoscope. Yung isa, pistola. So, both of them are there witnessing the transition of a person to the eternal life. Impress ako talaga doon. Lalo pa yung mga titigan nila na yung hahawakan yung pulso, tapos sasabihin na, gaganon na. And actually, when my mama died in the UST hospital, charity ward, okay, I was there when she took her last breath. Buti na lang ang gwapo ng resident. At naranasan ko yung so yun. So in fact, and remember, I was an introvert. I never recited in class. My voice was so soft and I was so shy. In fact, this is really truthful, no? So 4th year high school, you have physics. Our physics teacher, Mr. Intal, never knew me until the first quiz. because I got perfect. Heat of fusion of ice. And from then on, Mr. Intal remembered me. And during recitation, after 2 or 3 have given their answers, Miss Du, is that correct? Yes, sir. Okay, sanctioned by Miss Du, then that is correct. So when I eventually took up education, kumalat yung balita, si Milagros, magti-teacher. Ang hina ng boses niya. But they say, it's the given to me. And then, I realized, buti na lang hindi ako nag-doktor. Ayoko ng hospital setting. Ayoko ng amoy ng disinfectant. Ayoko makakita palagi. At saka ngayon ko naisip, pero mo kung doktor ako ngayon. Gusto kong tumulong sa mga doktor. At ayoko maging pare. I remember when I was so active with the Jesuits. Alam ni Rubian, si brother-in-law Tex Paurom, dumaan sa aming workshops. Sabi ni Father Joel Tabora, Mila, do you want to join the Society of Jesus? I said, no. I prefer my lifestyle. I'll just be friendly with you. But in essence now, what do I want about being a doctor of medicine and priesthood? Life. They are there at the beginning of life. And they can be there at the end of life. They are there when we need refreshment and restoration of life. And I think those are the 2 things that attracted me. My friends in Ginhawa, Minnie and Leia, would always emphasize to me, maybe Mila, you did not become a doctor, you did not become a priest, but your words, your teaching can be healing. So healing words, I think that is the gift of God to me. And my work in OD, words. Kaya ang kantang, it's only words, but words are all I have to take your heart away. In all my engagements, especially when I talk to leaders, I preface by saying, I say what I mean, and I mean what I say. I don't talk too much, but when I speak up, that came from a lengthy reflection. And that is why in all my engagements, I usually quote Parker Palmer. He is the author of the book, The Spirituality of Education. And this connects to my being a teacher. To teach is to create a space in which the community of truth is practiced. A community of truth is a network of relationships to which we must both speak and listen and hold ourselves accountable. And so that's the reason why I am very careful with what I say. Okay? In AIM, I was known to be quiet. It was deliberate on my part. Because even in the faculty meetings, parang case method. Alright, kasi may class participation grade. Actually, when I had my retirement party, the people who gave tribute to me recognized that I seldom spoke in the faculty meeting. But when I spoke, everyone kept quiet. Especially that most dramatic when I scolded the faculty. No one dared because they said what I said needed to be said. So they could not interrupt me. Thank you. Then maybe I was okay, in other words, so healing words is still consistent with my being a priest. And if I connect that with doctors, the doctors that I remember the most are those with healing words. I love doctors for their bedside manners. Okay, they can be very technically competent, but still different with doctors who are makatao, compassionate. Yung talagang ang ginagamot yung tao, hindi yung sakit. Parang si Patch Adams. Ang hinihilom yung tao, hindi yung sakit. Well, again, I go back to mission. Okay, if you know the why, you can deal with almost anyhow. I know the why. I know the why. How can I make an impact if I do not overcome my being an introvert? And that's why, usually after a major activity, I hide from the group. Let me give you an example. My magnum opus at the Ateneo was when I co-designed with Carol San Juan Ignatian Spirituality and Education Workshop, and then facilitated it in Mirador. 2 weeks, I think, or 1 week, probably 1 week. All the MANCOM of the 5 Jesuit universities from all over the Philippines. I was shy. Mas may bravado pa si Karel eh. Valedictorian yan eh. Si Karel, valedictorian ng Ateneo de Manila. But I had to do it. I had to do it. Because otherwise, how would I be able to carry out my mission? So nung last day na, that we started, I saw on a very negative note. People were angry kasi nagkaroon ng miscoordination between the people in Mirador and the people coming from Davao, Cagayan de Oro, Bicol, etc. Walang lunch. Dumating ng Mirador, gutom na gutom, walang lunch. O kulang ang lunch. And in fact, a Jesuit president was telling me, Mila, this is not good, this is not good. But honestly speaking, in terms of accountability, hindi ko accountability yon, yung administrative arrangement. But so to cut the story short, it ended on a very high note. Kaya nga ang tawag ko doon, magnum opus. Na ano lang siya, na overcome na siya nung halo-halo tayo eh. Okay, nung nagawa yung halo-halo tayo, nasantabi ko yung ISO. But, so nagtago ako. Kasi talaga sabi ko, dudumugin kami. Totoo nga din, dudumugin ka ng congratulations, etc. Ay, nagpunta ako sa dining room ng Mirador. Hindi ako umupo sa gitna, pumunta ako dun sa veranda para hindi ako puntahan at nakatalikod. Ganyan ako. Maski sa mga hotel, ayokong kumain kasama ng mga participants, pupunta ako dun sa likod, etc. Alam mo, nagulat ako kasi from behind, Father Noel Vasquez, the former, actually is still existing, the Jesuit in transition, the Jesuit provincial, embraced me from behind and said, "Thank you very much, Mila." Yung yakap lang yun ni Noel, sulit na lahat ng pagod ko. So, yun. If I go back to your question, why? Because there's a reason not to be shy. There's a reason to come out of my shell. There's a reason to speak up when I need to speak up. I think it is at this time that I have to connect Jung, OD, and turning points. Okay? Because when we first talk about this soul conversation, I think the meat or the soul was turning points. What are turning points? The choice of the term turning point seems to suggest that many people would look at the journey in this life as something linear, isang diretsong daan. And then at one point, mapapahinto ka. Sometimes the stopping is your choice, something you are made to stop. Okay? And then you ask yourself, what happened? Where am I? What am I doing? How long have I been on this journey? And in the language of symbols of the soul, this is the time when you begin to become restless and say, this life which has been okay doesn't fit me anymore. Okay? So, it is at this time, and I'm talking about being an OD na Jungian, which I said, the exemplar is Bernie Nepomuceno. Combine niya yun eh. Model ko si Bernie Nepomuceno, kinikilabutan ako. Alright, so it is at this time when you're restless, doesn't fit anymore. Dati gusto ko itong ginagawa ko. Do you know that I know that ayoko nang magturo? Umiiyak ako kasi nag-check ako ng papers ng students ko sa Ateneo de Manila. I was checking papers and I was crying. It's a sign that this is not for me anymore. Or sometimes I would be in the classroom and looking, what am I doing here? When you are already restless, when there is already a sense of disidentification, let the soul speak. Kasi you will find things in your mind to fix it. Siguro kailangan ko lang mag-leave. Ang dami kong ginawang leave sa Ateneo. because they do not want to let me go. They want me to stay teaching psychology. They will reserve my full-time slot until I make, but I said, no, it's unfair. That slot will never be filled by someone who wants to be a faculty. Let me go. So, yung OD, the OD and the Jung and the turning points all come together. So what is a turning point? It is a point in your life when you pause, you keep quiet, and you let your soul speak. Because your soul will tell you what you need to do. Juan Canapi, my mentor and a great OD practitioner, black belter in Aikido. Pag gulong-gulo ako, sabihin lang niya, go into silence, Mila. Listen to your core. Listen to your core. Listen to your soul. Now, there are many terms for turning points. The similar terms are crossroads, sangang daan o kusadaan, transitions, defining moments, breakthroughs with possibility of breakdown. I'd like to focus on transition because they connect to transformation. All right. I'm borrowing the framework of William Bridges. And William Bridges describes transition as having three phases. Having three phases. May I retrace my description before I go into transition, because we're talking about OD work, change, and turning point. Change and transitions are used interrelatedly, but they're not exactly the same. Change is external. It can happen to you sometimes without you knowing it. Itong global pandemic na to, this is change. Large system change, global, unpredicted, mostly. Sometimes it's your choice. I resigned. I relocate. I go abroad. But transition is internal and psychological. It is coming to terms with change. Do you feel at home again? You know, I am sad because last night, I found out from the news that for the opening of these school year, 2 million of our Filipino children have not yet enrolled. 2 million not yet enrolled. Why? Maybe they lack the resources, etc. And they may not have come at home with this new platform of education. So yun ang change, yun ang transition. So may internal struggle. Okay? Ang transition has three parts. Ending, neutral zone, and beginning. Dito ko talaga na-connect ang yung. Yung ending, pwede mo talagang i-connect sa hero's journey. Okay? Meron na talagang disillusionment. Meron talagang it does not fit. Disidentification. And yet people still cling. Why? Because it's the only thing that they know. Okay? One of my extreme example would be a battered wife and not leaving the husband. Okay? Some of our friends in Jung are counselors of such women. Diba? Helping these women, hey, wake up! Why are you sticking to that relationship? Because they do not know. Okay, why? Because the next phase is called neutral zone. And the neutral zone is a zone of polarities. What are they so afraid of in the neutral zone? It's a zone, I call it the twilight zone, the zombie zone, and then the laot of the sea. Pupunta ka sa gitna ng dagat. Hindi mo alam kung gaano kalalim. And what are the elements in the neutral zone? Confusion. This, test. Doubting. Kaya ko ba to? Kaya ko ba to? But what they forget is that the polarity are the positive emotions and the positive opportunities. There is exploration. Kung may disorientation, may reorientation. And most of all, it's a period of great creativity. Creativity. Again, I play with words. Notice the letters of the word create and react. Scramble in your mind. They're the same letters. But react, re means again, act. And I always remember Choncho quoting this definition of insanity. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the same result. Insanity. So, ulit ka ng ulit, walang nagbabago. Kung ano nung ginagawa mo, retoke, wala pa rin nagbabago. Kasi ang hinihingi na sa'yo, deep change. It is during this neutral zone. And take note also of the age range of people joining Carl Jung Circle. Nasa midlife. It's attractive to the midlife kasi doon ang major eh. Yun ang major transition. So, if we want to, I'd like to connect to being a mentor, being a coach, being a counselor, being a help, neutral zone yun. Kasi you have to help people get up from being plunged into that valley, climb again to a new beginning. Sa new beginning, what you have lost in the ending, and probably in the neutral zone, you may claim again. So new identity, a sense of control, a new identification, a certain sense of victory and triumph. So that's how I put them together. Yesterday, I met with my Sangha group. So there's Hani, Marisa, Josephine Perez, and Hani read from the book of Thai Nhat Hanh. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get a copy, but what she read was the reflection on breaking apart. Okay? It is in transition that we are breaking apart. But breaking apart does not mean breakdown. It can be breakthrough. And here I also bring the concept of exoskeleton. Remember, I'm a bio major. Invertebrates, they have no internal skeleton, so they have exoskeleton. So the crabs, the shrimps, even the snake, they have to shed off the exoskeleton so that the living, the new life comes out. We don't have that. But humanity, mga tao, they created eh. Many people created external skeleton. What? The trappings of power, the titles, the signature bags, membership in clubs, etc., etc. And when time comes that the new life is coming out and you have to give this up, for many people, it is not easy. Ricky Rafael, you've heard his name, he has come back to Carl Jung. He was my favorite partner in training and development. Inaanak ko sa kasal, all right? I remember when I was still with the academe and he already joined corporate, he would visit and said, ay nako, Mila, corporate life, they fill your pocket with money, but they empty your soul. And so, I remember that. When I engage leaders, most especially, because leaders are very important. The core of the organization is connected to the core of leadership. They must help their organizations renew its soul, bring back the soul, or find the soul. How do organizations know that they are at a turning point? And actually, it also begins with people. How do people know that they are at a turning point? And if I go back to organizations, how does a leader know that he and his organization is at a turning point? I will connect it to the phases of transition. Okay? I will connect it to being observant. Okay? People and organizations must observe themselves and their external surroundings, because the forces of change are both internal and external. Something outside is happening. You're trying to make sense of it. So there will be internal struggle. And I remember in my conversations about work last year, October, in the Carl Jung, one of the talks in the Carl Jung, when I talked about bringing the soul at work. What's happening now is a major change outside. And people, organizations, and especially leaders in these organizations, they have to be sensitive. Okay? So, how does the process go? Remember that as an OD consultant, I am a process consultant. I noted that difference when Juan Canapi and I joined AIM. With due respect to AIM, they come out as expert consultants. In terms of approach, the expert consultant sees himself as an expert. So when he engages the client and then makinig, itong problema nyo. Oh, in fact, there is a joke. If the expertise of the consultant is, let's say, communication, if the consultant is not careful, lahat ng problema, communication problem. If the expertise of a consultant has to do with systems, performance management system, ang lens niya, yun ang expertise niya, lahat ng problema, performance management system. But the kind of OD work that I do is the kind that is like a doctor. Holistic healing. You're not curing an illness. You're curing the whole person. You're not curing a finger. You're curing the whole person. You're healing the whole person. So in fact, ang daming definitions ng OD. I think I'll try to quote the definition that I subscribe now. Organization development is a system-wide, values-based approach to helping organizations become effective and efficient in all areas: operations, human resource, leadership style, finances. Before, finances were not included. That's why there was a criticism towards OD that, you are softy, feel good lang kayo. Because without finances, an organization will die. So later, an indicator of life is when an organization is not bleeding, it's not in the red. It is financially sustainable. But take note, it's a system-wide, values-based approach to helping organizations become effective and efficient, borrowing from different sciences, and more recently, including anthropology, political science, biology and theology, and mythology. Dati hindi. So can you see now the combination? In fact, when I was in USA, when I was still doing work with ABS-CBN Global, I bought 3 books from Amazon. They're all related to my work. One book is entitled Balancing Individual and Organization Values. The second book, which is very interesting, is The Conscious Consultant. And the third one is very Jungian, Guiding Change Journeys. The author of this book, I think it's Alan Tan, she used the hero with 1,000 faces. She used that and put together the hero with 1,000 faces on the archetypal journey used for corporate life. Why did she do that? Because all the other techniques were not working anymore. Okay, so that's it. That's it. How you put them together for organization. Now, with an organization, first of all, the organization must have indicators that's still okay. Finances. Okay. Are you in the red or in the black? Si Ed Morato, who is both an economist, believes in dreams, and then intuitive, etc. Isang tingin lang daw sa finances. Eyeball lang yung data. Alam na niya ang istorya ng organisasyon. OD yun. That's OD work. But with the lens of a financial expert. Okay. Indicators. Are people getting sick? Turnover. You have to look at all these indicators kasi nga, parang nagpa-vital signs ka, pumunta ka sa doktor with all your laboratory. All right. But most of all, it is important that you come in as not an expert. Because you have to respect that the solution is in the person, in the team, and the organization. I go back to my original definition of being an educator. A teacher lends one's voice to his or her students until the students discover their voice. One of the most challenging things to engage people in organizations is to make them believe in themselves, that they are the sources of the solution because they know their organization more than the OD consultant. Our advantage as an external consultant was properly phrased by Ichak Adises, author of Corporate Cycles. There is a pro and con between being an internal consultant and an external consultant. My work with Ateneo de Manila for my last 7 years, working with Father Benvenido Nebres. That's an example. I was an internal consultant. Wala akong official title na OD ako, but I was discovered, accidentally discovered by Marijo Ruiz and Father Ben, and the rest is history. Because for the first time in my life as a faculty member, I went to the microphone and spoke in the middle of the faculty meeting, which I never did in my whole life. Me and my big mouth, I was discovered, and the rest is history. So I was an internal consultant. Okay. The advantage of being an internal consultant, you know the organization. The disadvantage, you have reporting relationships. If I speak like this, Marijo is my dean. If I speak like this, what will Father Ben say? All right. Sometimes you are restricted from telling the truth or telling it as it is. The advantage of an external consultant, like me, is that, first of all, you called for me. I did not call for you. I hope that does not sound mayabang. Okay? Because I prefer that they call for me, which means they know me, and looking at their problem, they can see I can help them. Right. Two, as an OD consultant, I have this philosophy. The spirituality of change is the ability to say goodbye. Let me repeat that. The spirituality of change is the ability to say goodbye. And that begins with me. As an OD consultant, I do not intend that I will be your OD consultant forever. Otherwise, like a patient, dependent on the doctor. No. I must be able to say goodbye when you are ready to be on your own. That's why as an OD consultant, I'm not very particular about retainership. Yung may retainer fee ka. Okay, some are comfortable with that. Me, not too much. Okay, may advantage din yun. Okay? So, an external consultant, because you have no reporting relationships, they asked you to be an external eyes, a new set of eyes. According to Ichak Adises, we can be insultants, enclosed in quotation marks. Insultants. Well, we will not insult, but we can tell the truth. I remember I have a business partner in Cebu, family corporation. Okay? So, we had a long-term relationship. So, retainership to, no? Sa kanya. But he would bring me there. It's a very big Chinese company. Malaki, malaki. I will not mention. A member na siya ng board. So, sometimes you begin as an external consultant and then you become a member of the board, external member of the board. And then he would say, you are paying me to say this to you. You are paying me to tell you the truth. You are paying me so I can speak up like this. Because among you, you will not be able to say this. Kasi kung family corporation, si kuya, si uncle, si papa. So that's it. That's it about being an external consultant at a time when an organization needs change. The relationship may last long. In fact, one Kanapi who I still look up to, as more mature in terms of OD, 3 years is short. 3 years is short. Usually 5 years. But it depends. The important thing is that you plot the roadmap of change. And it does not mean that you will be there from beginning to end. If the roadmap of change is there, maybe different consultants aligned with the same philosophy can take turns in helping the organization. My work with the Multimedia Corporation began in November 2005. I began with the Execom, all the Mancom, global. The only part that I wasn't able to go to was Europe, Japan, Middle East, Australia, USA. I was able to go there. And it took me that from 2005, and then it gradually trimmed down until the time that their franchise was not renewed. So that's a long-term relationship. And I noticed that when their problems are so delicate, they would look for me. Because they would say, Mila knows us. May I answer that within an actual OD context when I work with leaders who are at a turning point because their organization is at a turning point. What pops up into my mind is still this multimedia corporation. I'd like to start by saying that persons and organizations are related. And in fact, that was the one that inspired me to do my dissertation on 10 women leaders. And the title of my dissertation is Personal Transformation of Women in Their Transforming Organizations. When a leader joins an organization, the story of the leader intertwines with the organization and vice versa. Now, leaders in organizations, especially for organizations that have been existing for a long time, they will already have a history or succession of leaders. And then the OD consultant can be invited at certain stages of the organization. Because the change in the stage of the organization is actually a turning point, which can trigger the turning point of a leader. Remember that some leaders are reluctant. They do not want to become leaders. They're not ready for a turning point in their lives. Okay? Or some leaders would like to become leaders, but they are not seen to be fit. So I'm talking about a huge organization which has the tinge of a family corporation. So ideally, the next one in line must be a member of the family. Okay? So this is the person and the organization. The leader, I've known the leader even before he was in the actual big organization because it's a holdings. So I got to know him when he was younger. He was heady. He was doing a good job in a subsidiary of the big mother company because of his skills. He's a graduate of Ateneo, Management Engineering, great in mathematics, very logos, etc. But comes a point that he has to join the mother organization because of his affinity. He's a family member. So it's a tour of duty. Okay. So actually that is a turning point. So he was so reluctant. He was my student in college. So I had that relationship. He could be honest with me. And I've joined him in many of, at least two of the organizations that are part of the holdings, but not not the big organization. So, but eventually he had to say yes. So usually one of the things that they ask me when an organization wants to go back to the drawing board, they would invite me for their strategic planning, vision, mission, and values. In fact, that is how my story with the big media corporation started. A little bit of backtrack. They lost market leadership. After 17 years of being number one, a major turning point was they became number two. That's a major turning point. And that's the story. But fast forward. I'm still talking about the same big organization, but this time, a new leader is coming in. And I asked him, why me? Why me? And then he said, Mila, I have no pretenses. Look at my two successors. The first one was really directly a member of the family, the son of the founder. And look at his background. The other one knows the business, came from the business, knows the in and out of the business. Who am I? Okay? I am a new wannabe. I'm an outsider. So, what do you want me to do? Uh, the first one has a tremendous power as CEO because of that family connection. Isn't it? That's referent power. The second one has a strong uh, leadership power because she knows the content of the business. So, what I want to do is this, Mila. And remember, the ex-secom is already half new and half old. What I want to do is to come together so that we can agree on a new on a set of values that will guide us so that if in the future we will have disagreements because of the new things in the business, we have sometimes or we have time to really come together and discuss this. So I did that. I did that. So to answer the question of the turning point, the organization is at a turning point because of the advent of technology. This particular leader, a young man, may not have the strength of the first and the second, but he has the skills. Okay, and yet he was not prepared. So he asked for that help. Bring the execom together so that we can agree on a set of values that will guide us in our decision making for the future. And that's what I did. Follow-ups, etc. More often than not, because remember, let me make this comparison. I mentioned transition earlier. Transition is the bridge between the old and the new. Values, mission, and vision are the sources of power and stability for both a person and the organization to cross that bridge. Again, let me amplify that with one of my favorite quotations. People and organizations cannot live with change unless there is a changeless core inside them. The key to the ability to change is a changeless sense of who you are, what you are about, and what you value. That's it. And if you listen to those last three, who you are, what you are about, and what you value, that's the essence. That's mission. That's purpose. Those are your values. And I'm telling you that even if I have my theology, psychology, it was in Carl Jung that I was forced to really face these questions. Who am I? What am I about? And what are important to me? Again, organizations are persons, especially the leader. But let's say the person we are talking about is not a leader. Okay, someone or maybe a professional or someone who is just experiencing some kind of crisis, midlife crisis. And if he or she does not face this transition, the consequences will not be as great or as big as a leader of a big corporation. It's the cost, COST, of not going through the transition. Okay? And that's the reason why top leaders are always sent to retreats. There's a continuous development because the cost of not being able to respond to changes will be huge for the organization. And there are many people who will be affected. But actually, there are similarities, which I will mention later. Because again, I go back to the lessons of my dissertation. Okay. One of the lessons of my dissertation is that if a leader is so conscious that while she was leading, something is happening to her and the organization, both of them will benefit, the person and the organization. And I must admit that my last 7 years at the Ateneo, when I joined Father Ben in his OD work of transforming the Ateneo. Remember, Father Ben was 18 years president. Okay? And I left after, siguro, dumating siya ng 1993. I think I was able to join him for only a few years. No? So, I was conscious that even if I was not in a leadership position, I was joining a leader. I was so conscious of my own transition. And that's why I changed. I hope I'm making it clear to our audience. Actually, all of us can do something for ourselves and our organizations if we are sensitive to what's going on outside and inside us. Magmasid tayo. Makinig tayo. Yun, okay? So, stories, no? So example, what if it's success? What happens if both the consultant and then I always look for a champion. Every time I'm invited to be an external consultant, I would ask, who is the champion inside? Ideally, the champion must be the CEO. The CEO must believe in the change. This huge company in Cebu, Family Corporation, the eldest son of Generation 3. Kasi Generation 1, 2, nasa 3 na eh. Okay? And remember, in Family Corporation, there is this saying, the first generation builds it. The second generation made it grow. The third generation, if they're not careful, will squander it. So they're very careful kasi Generation 3. But he had a difficult time being the kuya in the family and the CEO. And so he was in transition. He came all the way from Cebu, met me in Makati, met me in Cravings in Katipunan, just to be able to listen. So he was really ready for the transition. That's a success story. I did not start the process. It all began with my partner. Siguro I came in almost, when they already have the family constitution, etc. The success of any long-term transformation of an organization actually involves changing mindsets and hearts of the people. It has to begin with the leaders. That's why it's both. It's personal transition and organizational transition and transformation. It is a painful process. Now, success can be gleaned as long as your indicators at the start are already identified. Actually, this is what you call about evaluation as a front-end process. Evaluation is a very important aspect of any change process. It has to be done at the beginning. What are the signs that we are changing? Even, for example, for a personal change. For example, let's just go physical. Weight loss. Weight loss. You have to begin by weighing yourself at the beginning of the weight loss program. Or removing a bad habit like smoking. You have to have a baseline. How many sticks of cigarettes are you smoking? Etc., etc. So evaluation is a front-end process. So some of the indicators there, even for example, processes in meetings. If in the past, no one can speak up because the most talkative member of the family who is a dominant member because his father is like this, did he gradually change? Has his behavior changed in the meeting? In organizational work, I look at meetings. I observe them in meetings because meetings, heartthrob yan ng organization. Eh. That's why I attend ExCom meetings and ManCom meetings because decisions are made in those meetings. I think I have to bring in a very important aspect in OD work and change work. Resistance. Resistance. That is the bane of OD consultants. Ayaw kong magbago. The lack of readiness for change. And the lack of readiness may come from different emotions. Usually, fear. Kaya ko ba? Okay. Even that Even that newbie was fearful. Will I have no pretenses? Look at my two predecessors. I'm not like them. I may fear. Can I do the work? Am I the best fit person? With due respect, even VP Lenny, when she was interviewed by Karen Davila, diba? Wala namang fear. Pero sinasabi niya, ako ba? Ako ba talaga ang savior? Baka may iba dyan. Alright, so my fear, my lack of trust, okay? Will you be there at my back? Can I rely on you? And then what if there are histories of failure? Remember kung family corporation. Alright, so what do you do with resistance? I have to cite one of my best examples in life when I was still a newbie. You respect the person, you listen to the resistance. Okay, example, World Health Organization, 1996. I was seconded by Ateneo to the Learning Center of World Health Organization. Okay, this is in Taft Avenue. Okay, what was the purpose of World Health? They were waiting for China to wake up, to open. They wanted to influence China and countries of the Western Pacific region to be open to Western models of change. Common denominator of all our fellows were they came from authoritarian countries. So they're not used to thinking for themselves. Okay. And crash course, Maridel and I developed 3 courses from scratch that are important for leaders, and one of them is OD. All right. So ang culminating project, as a proof that they have learned, they have to come up with what they call an action plan development program that they will bring to their ministries of health. Oh my God, the resistance and the protest. APDP will not work in our country. That's only for the teacher. APDP, so they were protesting. They went to the executive director. But I said, Maridel, let's do this. So we divided the fellows. 14 came to me, 14 to Maridel. I don't know how Maridel did it, but our goal was respect the person, listen to the resistance. So they were all seated. And I have my easel board. One by one, I asked them, and remember, you have a doctor from China, you have from Vietnam. They were all pressured by authoritarian countries. So I wrote down one by one 14 expression of resistance. And then I went back to each one. I made them expound, etc., etc. Just listen. After that, I said, so who among you still believe that APDP is not useful? Only one raised his hand. And I do not remember. 13 saw the value. So this is so important. But you can only do this as an OD consultant if you're a process consultant. You believe in the philosophy that the solution will come from your people. Because leaders are at the helm of organization. Leaders are culture bearers of organization. Change in leadership brings changes in culture. That alone makes leaders very, very important for the organization. Right. So, there are certain tools that are so important for leaders. These tools are all the assessments, that can be given to leaders. There are so many of them. But at this point, I just want to mention 2. Emotional intelligence and adversity quotient. It so happened I'm writing a book right now, Learning to Feel, which is one of the chapters of self-mastery written by my mentor, Edmo. But I'm expounding the book to really focus on emotional intelligence of leaders. So what is emotional intelligence? It is the capacity of a leader to be aware of one's emotions, manage these emotions, while being aware of the emotions of other people and helping these people regulate their emotions. This is where empathy and sympathy come in. Okay? As I said, sympathy from the word sim is to be with. nakikiramay ka, nakikidalamhati ka. But empathy is to be able to take an objective viewpoint, understand the other person's perspective, but you are not carried away. But the highest indicator of emotional intelligence is wisdom. So Edmo defined learning to feel in his book to grow in wisdom and in grace. Now, why wisdom? Do you remember the story of Solomon? The famous story of King Solomon. Okay? Take note that at that time, King Solomon had his own kingdom-wide concerns. Ang laki ng kaharian ni King Solomon. And yet, the problem brought to him was very personal. You have two women claiming that each one as the true mother of the living child. Because one gave birth to a stillborn baby, the other one gave birth to a living baby. So I can imagine King Solomon listening to the plea and the lamentation of the two mothers. Edmo, this is the reflection of Edmo in his book, and I love it. At that time, there were no DNA tests. Madali ngayon kasi may DNA test. There were no DNA tests. But it was King Solomon's EQ, specifically siguro nga empathy, that allowed him to listen to the true mother. Because a true mother would not want her baby to be cut in half, just so that each of them will get a dead half baby. So that's EQ, to grow in wisdom and in grace. More recent studies about EQ tell us that wise people have this paradox, disinterested interest. Let me repeat that. It's a tongue twister for me. One of the traits of a wise person is disinterested interest. Disinterested meaning detached. I think this is also related to the question of how do you remove yourself from your client? Leaders lead the people, but they are detached. So disinterested. And yet they're interested because they look at the details. They look at the details of the situation. Again, I cannot help it because I watched the interview of Karen Davila with Lenny Robredo. And she's a good example of a wise leader at this point, at least based on what I saw. So she was being asked about her candidacy. She could not be cornered. Karen Davila tried, but she was so detached. She said, ang mahalaga sa akin, yung kabutihan ng bayan. Hindi natin pwedeng baliwalain itong darating na eleksyon. Ano ba ikabubuti ng bayan? So yun ang reality. May iba naman dyan. Okay? So disinterested interest. And that's the reason why wise leaders, and I'm really appealing to leaders right now. If there is anything that you want to develop in your leadership arsenal, please elevate your EQ. Because we are entering, I think we're already in the time where there's so much emotion, and most of them are the emotions that are, unpleasant. There's fear, distrust, etc. This is so important, okay? To be disinterested and interested at the same time. Because you have no personal agenda. What you are after is the common good. So that's the first tool. Related to that is adversity quotient. Common saying, when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. So, how does a leader behave in adversity? Paul Stoltz did a lot of research. And that's why Paul Stoltz came up with CORE, the core of the leader. The core of a leader with high AQ are the following. C means control. But take note, the paradox. Remember the prayer of serenity. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Okay, so the leader must first know there's certain things within my control. There are things I cannot control. Okay. The moment that reality is accepted, The leader must own. Okay? Must own. So this situation, within my control and my purview, I own this. So a leader with high EQ will never go into blaming game. Kasalanan nila. Very immature behavior of a leader to point fingers. I remember when I visited the first woman non-family member president of this large organization. I did my courtesy call. I'm talking about CNO. I said, so how are you? So you are now the new CEO. How does it feel? Teacher Mila, because she calls me Teacher Mila, the buck stops with me. The buck stops with me. I cannot always go to the board of trustees to ask for help. There are certain things that will really have to stay with me. Aakuin niya. Hindi mo pwede sabihin, kasi sabi niya. Okay. And then, R, reach. Reach. Hanggang sa aabot yung problema. Okay? Parang tubig ang problema eh. Una siguro dumadaloy ganyan, tumutulong yan, maging baha. Adversity quotient asks the leader to contain the problem. A typical day, let's say you did not wake up on the right side of the bed. You cannot, like for example, this morning, I cannot find the remote control of the aircon. If I said, please pray, I could have let that, destroy me. I said, no, I had to really grip and say, doon pala siya. Okay? Na-traffic ka lang, etc. Or you had a bad meeting and then all the other meetings suffered. No. Reach means contain it here. And I'm appealing to leaders because you're also family heads. You are husbands and fathers. Please do not bring it to the family as much as possible. That is easier said than done, and vice versa. Vice versa. Your problems in the family, as much as possible, to the extent you can do it, contain them. And the last one is E. E means endurance. Makakaya ko ba to? Matatagalan ko ba to? Okay, that is the meaning. That is the core. So those two are very important tools for a leader. And I'll connect it to emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence has 5 dimensions, researched by Daniel Goleman, no? All right, and Peter Salovey. Peter Salovey did the research, but Daniel Goleman is the more popular and commercial. There are 5 dimensions of emotional intelligence. The first one is emotional awareness of the leader, my self-awareness. The second one is my capacity to regulate my emotions, especially the adverse ones. Okay? The third is performance. In spite of everything, I am able to deliver. So the performance management. The fourth is recognizing the emotions of other people. And the last one is managing relationships. You are not a leader or manager if you don't have a network of relationships. In fact, there has been a saying, IQ gets you hired, EQ gets you promoted. Okay? So, given these 5 dimensions, and in connection with your question about the power, self-awareness of the leader is so important. In fact, if I remember right, when I went to Singapore in 2012 to attend, I think the 12th Asian OD Summit held in Singapore, attended by OD practitioners from the Western to the Eastern Hemisphere. One of our keynote speakers is an OD practitioner from England. Sorry, I forgot her name. And she gave us a very important seminal paper on what an honest-to-goodness OD consultant must look out. And this I have not forgotten. One of them is that the OD practitioner must be aware of one's shadow. Doon pa lang, I really have to go back to shadow work. An OD practitioner must do conscious shadow work, lest I will not be helpful to a person or team or an organization, especially to a leader whose shadow is also not in his awareness. Okay, so why is shadow work important? It's important for me, okay? Because my agenda cannot get in. Like, as I said, a wise person, disinterested interest. It's the good of the organization, not mine. It is at this point that allow me to read from my notes because I want to read it accurately. All right. So I'd like to give credit immediately. This came from Conjure 1994, Spirit at Work, Discovering Spirituality in Leadership. We share responsibility for creating the external world, of projecting either a spirit of light or spirit of shadow on that which is other than us. We project either the spirit of hope or the spirit of despair. We have a choice about what we are going to project. And in that choice, we help create the world that is. A leader is a person who has an unusual degree of power to project on other people his or her shadow or his or her light. Thus, a leader must take responsibility for what is going on inside his or her own self, inside one's consciousness, lest the act of leadership creates more harm than good. Maybe I don't need to give an example right now. We are in the middle of it. We are in the middle of it. And I think several times in some of our study sessions, I remember that particular session in the home of Carissa, when we were reaching out to the community, Dido Villasor had a special talk on that, the shadow of the leader in organizations, no? But it can also happen to nations. I'm dreaming of developing a book, another program on leadership, the 4 powers of leadership. And they're all based on archetypes. Okay? In fact, the book is saying that it's like this. You have a person, before this person becomes a leader, whether president or CEO, okay? He or she is a person with all his traits, his strengths, and his flaws. And then you have a position. Depending upon the position, every position has its power. So the higher the position, the more power. Can you imagine if this is the person and you put it like this? So the person with all the strengths and the flaw can be amplified by this. Okay? Kasi nasa kapangyarihan na siya eh. Nasa kapangyarihan na siya. Nakakatakot. Another example, you can check this out. I'm an admirer of Nelson Mandela. And you know that he was incarcerated for a long time, no? And and then when he got out of prison, he wanted reconciliation, etc. Even his own captors, I think, were given a second chance, no? And then this is a Facebook post, no? But whether it's accurate or not, I think this is a story I want to relate to prove that point, no? So Nelson Mandela was eating in an eatery there. And then there was a guy in another table whose head was bowed down so low, apparently avoiding eye contact. And Nelson Mandela, president already, approached the person. And the person in the table was trembling. Nelson Mandela did not do anything. Why was that person trembling? Because he was one of the captors and torturers of Nelson Mandela. A lesser man than Nelson Mandela would have used that power in order to take revenge. That is the meaning. That's why we really have to be very careful about our shadow. First of all, remember the old paradigm of leadership. The old paradigm of leadership is strength and power. In fact, the older paradigm is brawn. So it's not easy for leaders to show vulnerability. It's not easy for leaders to show weakness. And remember, the transition is a point of weakness. Again, if we go back to the crustaceans, they are helpless without their exoskeleton. And if you apply that to human leaders can be helpless with all their trappings of power, security guard, their personal card, their credit card, etc. So it's really a moment of weakness. I'd like to quote this another important quotation. Allow me to check my notes now, because I'm saying this not only for leaders but people in organizations, because leaders work with organizations. Okay, I think I will say it from my memory. This is from Marsha Perkins Reed. For all people, whether you are in top leadership position, which we call the C-suite, you are top honcho, or you are middle management, but for all people, how do we view life? If we view our life as our training ground, the purpose of which is to perfect our skills in being truly human, then the purpose of transitions is transformation. We may not totally understand or make sense when it is happening, because as we have seen, transitions can be painful. Transitions are difficult. Loss of identity, our normal ways of control, we lose that. So it doesn't make sense. But if we are determined to profit from our transitions, then transitions will lead to transformation. Why do I quote that for leaders? Because actually leaders are blessed. The blessing and burden of leadership. Leaders are blessed because they are given opportunities to go through many transitions, depending upon the industry that they have joined, depending upon the time when the industry is going through a major change. Just popped up into my mind. So this CEO of this big multimedia company, he was really at a loss. Actually, he asked for help. Do you know that I was not the first choice to be the external consultant for this company? They have sought other consultants, highly paid, international. Okay? And I did not know that until we have become friends. Ito pa yung nangyari. They tried to keep from the CEO who will be their consultant in that particular defining moment workshop in Baguio. Because this particular CEO is tired of attending workshops already. All right, so so many workshops, etc. And he wanted to be out of town. So they hid my identity. So they said, show at least the picture. So what they did, they researched AIM. And honestly, my picture there is really off. One of these days, I will show you the picture. I myself will not hire myself based on the picture. So the picture was shown to my partner, the OD partner, the other helper. Kasi the magic comes from asking help from someone inside and someone outside. So the secretary of the OD had said, yan ang ating consultant. Hindi yan papasa. Okay? But I was the consultant. I think the magic happened. The magic happened on the first contact. Because another friend who was supposed to be there, iniwan ako. Sabi ko, Father, di ba magkasama tayo? Bakit mo ko kinukumpita dyan sa blessing na yan? Hindi mauuna ka nga eh. You know these things. So I think there's some kind of a mystery happening. So I was there. Even, I think the magic happens because my logos could not work. I did not know everything. I did not conduct a TNA, training needs analysis. I did not do diagnosis. I was just thrust. Napasubo lang ako. I was thrust into that moment. Andun na ako. Ano gagawin ko? Alright? Andun na ako. Actually, kinikilabutan ako habang kinikwento ko. Kasi I knew that the magic of the Holy Spirit was there. So, ito na, malapit na. Nakaupo na silang lahat. Okay, kinakabahan ako. And then, this priest texted me. And he said, Mila, please tell the group that I am lighting 2 candles for them. And I'm praying for you right now. Because honestly, me who is so used to speaking was speechless. I did not know how to start the session with the executive committee. And then, I said, hello, good afternoon. And of course, the CEO was already like that. All the others were like that. Okay, because parang ang ano nila, tingnan nga natin kung ano magagawa na naman ito. Sawa na sila. And then I said, I'm Milagros. Father said, he is lighting 2 candles for you now. And then I said, akala ko magkasama kami rito eh. Naisahan ako. And that's it. That's it. It's the way I opened the session that changed everything. So for me, magic was there. For me, magic is being open to what you do not expect. I thought I could control everything. I could not. I could not. So I, as a consultant, is open to those other helpers. These people must be open also to people whom they have not sought help from the past. Maybe along that line, ito yung payo ni Professor Titong Gabino. Mila, or to us, no, you leave some room for the Holy Spirit to do its work. In other words, do not control everything. So sa akin, siguro in our language, you allow the fairy godmother to do its work. You allow the angels to do their work. You cannot control everything. I would always remember what Ruby said, Mila, magpahinga ka naman para makapahinga ako. Ibig sabihin talaga, allow the other energy to flow. Hindi mo kontrolado lahat. I invite you to read, to visit the website of Sigla, lovingly and artistically created by J. Batoon. A visit to Sigla is like visiting a garden. Can I sing a song? All right. What inspired me to do Sigla and call it like that is because one of my favorite songs is this. When I grow to be a lady, I'll be a queen, a lovely queen, walking in a garden shady, in gown of green with silver sheen. Maids in gold and white shall follow me, and suitors of a high degree. So yun yung, gusto ko talaga yung idea na naglalakad sa gitna ng hardin. Tapos buhay, maraming buhay. Merong nalalantang dahon, pero may mga bagong usbong. So yun pa lang, the concept of a garden. And I look at the Philippine archipelago as a huge garden. Di ba pa nagbabiyahe tayo, pag tumingin kang ganyan, luntian eh. Luntian talaga. Ang daming bundok na luntian. So yun, my childhood song, my childhood dream, and then the way I look at the Philippines, the Philippine archipelago. Tapos, Sigla came from Emcredo. Sigla came from Milagros Center of Healing and Recreation of Developing Org. And take note that my mission, as I have given, I breathe new life to persons and organizations for healing and transformation. Kasi, ang nangangailangan ng breath of life, yung nanghihina. Yung wala ng kabuhay-buhay, yung walang kasigla-sigla. So from Emcredo, naisip ko, sigla. How do we maintain sigla? Because sigla means animation. Sigla means liveliness. Sigla means buhay. And then, sigla, yung original name ng sigla, hindi pa ang archetypes eh. School in the Garden of the Living Artists. Because I love artists. I love artists. My Uncle Emil is a painter. Kung mayaman lang ako, I will be a patroness of art. I will really donate to art. But then, halo-halo tayo came in. And the archetypes became alive. I said, no, it's the archetypes, the gifts of the Filipino psyche. So nagbago yung pangalan ng sigla, naging School in the Garden of the Living Archetypes. And that's it. Hindi nandun lang siya. Come the pandemic last year, we had no choice. It's a cocooning period. And I used that cocooning. I'm so grateful I took up color bending with Oliver. It was so calming. And then all the different sessions, etc. But I think one of the major fruits of that is sitting down and writing down the story of Sigla and asking Jay Batoon to really put it in a website and inviting the people I love, no, to join. So my Sigla Awesome team, si Ruby, si Mean, si Matthew, si Jay of course, si Marivic Castillo, si Denise Melanie at ako. What is the dream of Sigla? The dream of Sigla is really to help the Filipino discover its gold. Okay? Angkinin natin ang ginto ng ating pagkatao. And then be a shining example in the ASEAN region and into the world. So that is Sigla for me. It's a school because remember, the real meaning of the word school is escola, which means freedom. So hindi siya yung brick and mortar school. In fact, I see it as an enhancement of what we have gotten from our formal schooling and many others, because it allows us to revive and to bring back life again so we can be life-giving to our own nation. So that is Sigla. Actually, if natuloy ako dun sa, di ba we were, Carl Jung Circle Center wanted to offer the third batch ba? Or the third batch of that course. I wanted to enroll, and this will be my sole project. Right now, even without that formal structure of the certificate, this is soul giving to me. I'm so thankful that this year, one major project was with a group, a division in that multimedia company, and we guided their people, okay? And the other one now is the USC Department of Surgery, and we have developed, co-created a leadership program, leadership enhancement and development program for the resident doctors of this university, and many more. Actually, from last year until now, I have been accepting talks related to soul work, and I put them under not under, but in the garden of Sigla. So this will be my legacy in life. I will continue cultivating this garden. I hope that my awesome team will continue cultivating it. I hope it can go beyond my physical life on this in this planet, my temporal life, because it's a garden. It can always continue living and thriving. What does it profit a man to gain the whole world, but suffer the loss of his own soul? I guess that alone tells us how important soul work is. Because soul, as Carl Jung said, is the archetype of life. It is embedded in the details of ordinary living. Well, he distinguishes it from spirit. Spirit transcends humanity. But soul feels humanity. Nakalubog sa karanasan ng tao. And again, since I started with a biblical verse, I guess that's what Christ did. He came to become human in order to see us and meet us and engage us in the ordinariness of life. Spirituality may mean that a man or a woman will go into the desert, will go to the mountain, will hide in a cave, listen to all these voices to, see the highest future possibility. But soul, I remember Father Tom Green, Jesuit, is very good with retreat. Do you always need to go to a retreat house to do your retreat? Actually, you can be soulful in the marketplace. You can be soulful in the hospital. So soul work is so important. Because remember, soul is between mind and body. It allows us to feel really how it is to be human. And I think one of the best exemplars is Mother Teresa. And I think recently we celebrated the feast day of Mother Teresa of Calcutta. She could have lived a comfortable life. She could have been a nun with another mission or ministry. But look at the kind of ministry that she and her nuns chose. It's a ministry of feeling the soul in the gutters of India, for the abandoned, the wretched, to give them the dignity of life. So soul work is so vital. So I go back to Ricky Rafael when he said, "Oh, Mila, corporate life, they fill your pockets with money, but they empty your soul." I prefer to have less money, but I want a soulful life. All right. Siguro final word, may I just share my philosophy of change, no? Again, this is not completely original. I borrowed it from Maori. And take note, iba yung mga Maori, mga ano din yan, mga ano yan, taong dagat. All right. Because this also, in a nutshell, are my tips. It includes the tips of being able to be open to transition. We are all visitors to this time and place. We are just passing through. So, our roles here are to observe, to learn, to love, to serve, to grow. Then we return home. And that return home is the biggest turning point. Marami pong salamat.